Welcome everybody back to this episode of From the Mechanics Bench. Really excited for this week's episode. I've got Johnny Helly here in person. I've been lucky enough to see his career grow from racing here in Canada to now being a staple on the EWS, EDR, whatever the enduro race circuit is. I'm really excited to chat with him. So welcome. Thanks for coming by.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dave.
And let's get started. What's your story? You're from Kamloops. You grew up here. You started racing, I think, here, right?
Yeah, so born and raised in Kamloops. I actually didn't start with the whole. Never actually wanted to be a mountain biker. It all started kind of wanting to focus on moto racing.
Oh, no way.
So yeah, I started because my dad was into the moto side of things, and yeah, I grew up on a dirt bike.
Yeah.
My dad put me on a dirt bike as soon as he could, thought it was safe. And then also kind of started biking when I was around 3 years old. But yeah, all this happened in Kamloops and with my family.
That's pretty rad. Because your dad is a pretty accomplished mountain biker too. Was he also riding mountain bikes, or did he get into it because of you?
I think my dad definitely started it. My mom and my dad, both all over mountain bikes. But yeah, my dad started moto, and then when he had us, I think he started transitioning more into riding mountain bikes.
Yeah.
And then, he did some cross country races. Me and my brother started doing some cross country races, and kind of blossomed from there into enduro.
Wicked. And then, so you used to, when I first met you, you were riding for Giant, I think, right?
Yeah.
At the time. And was that a grassroots program, or how did that all start, or what?
So Giant started through another shop in town.
Yeah.
The cafe.
Yeah.
We started with Dylan Schrar, Shred Hard
camps,
and got around kind of the whole that community, Matt Hunter, Matty Miles, Dylan, and then eventually kind of went to the shop, and then started talking to Lachlan and Cheryl, and got a Giant bikes, little grassroots thing sorted.
Wicked.
And I kind of remember the day, me and my brother were too scared to go drop our resumes at the shop, so our dad walked in.
As Groms are.
Yeah, and dad talked to them, then we came in, we're all nervous, but we had a pretty good season of racing before there, and we wanted to keep growing, so this was obviously the first step. So we did the Giant thing for, I feel I was on them for 5 years, and
so how old would you have been at that time?
So we did a full season of racing enduro, the BC Enduro Series.
Yeah.
And then it was the season after, because we had these results.
Right.
And we're me and my brother, we were both okay, we might be able to get some little sort of sponsorship, grassroots hookup thing. So I was 11 years old, I think, when that happened.
Wow. Yeah.
So I was really young, but.
And how old was Jeremy then? He was. What, he's 1 year older than you? 2 years older?
He's 2 years older, so he was 13.
13 or whatever, yeah. So then then Giant brings you from, then you're 12 years old or something, right? Your first year on Giant, which is wild. Yeah. You obviously had a very good year that first year.
Yeah, I think, obviously, the BC Enduro Series, me and my brother, we followed it with my family. It's kind of cool that my dad would race with us. My mom volunteered at all the races.
That's super rad.
So it was pretty awesome story there. And then me and my brother and my dad, I really just wanted to be the fastest heli.
Yeah.
So I'd push so hard every weekend to be the fastest one in our family. And
good results that first year.
Good results. I think I was on the podium at Williams Lake.
Oh, cool.
For one of them in U15, which at
11 is definitely U15.
Yeah.
That's rad. And then, so you did that, and then you finished with Giant. Did you go right to We Are One from Giant?
So I did do that, but there was a step up from the grassroots level to the Giant Canada off-road team.
Oh, sweet.
So they brought it back after a few years. They used to have riders like McKay and some other guys that had the jerseys up on the wall, but this guy we used to deal with, Paul, kind of called my dad again, and he's we kind of want you guys to be involved in this project. And we're put with some pretty cool other racers that kind of focused on cross country and like cyclocross,
Yeah.
and then they had me and Jeremy on for the enduro.
Very
And
cool.
we had, yeah, which it was like a little kind of factory team, like a grassroots factory team, which was super cool at that age. I think
No
I was
kidding.
probably around 16 years old, or no, maybe I was 17, but that was the year of COVID, so we didn't
Right.
actually get to put the like support we were getting
Into anything.
into any like racing. So that's kind of when I started working on like more media stuff.
Right.
Touch on.
Yeah, no, we definitely will.
Yeah.
And then, and but you obviously, so like it meant because from that year, because then it would have been what the next year. No, when did we go to Europe to do? Was that 2021?
2021, yeah.
So had you raced for We Are One before that, or was those are the years that you were on the giant factory, like kind of off-road team? It was like set from 2018, 19 in there, 2020.
Yeah, 2020 was the only year I was on that Canadian
Okay.
team. And before that, obviously I was riding We Are One product
Yeah.
since it started. So yeah, had the wheels on all my giant bikes, and then right when we found out there was a bike coming from We Are One.
Yeah.
Dustin called and was like, I got something to show you.
Yeah.
And I took it, I think on Rio was the first ride I had on it. I think Mark was there too.
What a
and
staple.
got some shuttles, and we did like a back-to-back run from the rain I had to the arrival, and it's like 9 seconds faster
Holy.
on the first ever run on it compared to my other bike. So I was pretty blown away, and yeah, got the opportunity to go race with you with We Are One the next year around the world, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah. Especially it was really interesting coming from racing the Canadian Nationals, doing that whole circuit, and then having the gap year of COVID.
Totally.
And I didn't race at all. So I was like not only coming in without racing, but I was also like ever racing an international race.
Yeah.
I was also super rusty from like not racing for that whole year.
Well, and then you throw not really having traveled without your family on top of it, right? All those things. Were you already training like at that point when you were racing the Canadian off-road thing? Did you find that you were like having to do gym stuff, or was it just like ride my bike, like that's enough as long as I ride my bike a lot? Or has there been a shift in the mindset for you there?
So I think the first year I did training full time and like really like putting my heart and soul into it was when I was 16, 17 on the Canada giant team. But kind of I've still kind of had the same mindset, but obviously like every year I'm working a bit harder. I know what I need to be working on. I think I didn't really do too much work in the gym. It was more just body weight stuff. And then gradually throughout the years I'm kind of going in the gym more, like lifting more. And honestly, kind of like less endurance stuff, just with how enduro's been changing.
Totally.
Because it used to be like huge days,
massive,
doing like 2,000, 2,500 meters of climbing a day. And then now we're kind of doing more bike stuff, bike park downhill and stuff.
It's almost like 5 mini downhills.
So like you want to be strong and hold it together. It's like you go as fast as you can. So lots of stuff in the gym these days, and intensity. Still some long rides.
And did you find the like racing scene, like making that shift over? What was the most challenging thing? Like you haven't raced now in a year. You're going traveling for the first time. Like I remember feeling like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but even like moving to the airport the first time we like left, it was like you could see the nerves. Like just like going to Europe was nerve-wracking. You're on a new team that is homegrown, first full suspension carbon, like made in Canada, going racing on these prototypes. Like there's a lot of pressure on you. Like what was the hardest kind of piece in that transition for you? What was the biggest challenge?
I think I put a lot of pressure on myself.
You did,
because I just like got this opportunity, and like everyone at the company like really believed in me and wanted me to succeed, and I put like I think almost too much pressure on myself to like perform at these races, to the point where I was like nervous the whole entire trip. Like I usually like nowadays I get like the night before I'm kind of nervous for the race. Like if you've ever like everyone who's raced
has those
feelings, but the whole entire trip I was like super on edge, cautious, like not kind of riding like myself, just because I didn't really want to mess anything up.
But it was funny because like watching you, it was like that almost had the opposite effect.
Yeah.
Right. Like you could never really settle into like your groove and like really just be comfortable and like and see that, because like you could see that, and you could see that whole trip, the moments of like the glimpses of the speed that you're capable of. Like there was always these like snapshots or these stages or these like it's right there, right on the tip of like clicking in. But yeah, I mean it was wild. What was your favorite race that season? So first year EWS.
I'd probably have to say Litwill, the second one. Even though, you know, I had I think it was on the second stage of the day, some kid in front of me must have like cut through a corner and ripped a bunch of tape down. I got all this tape stuck in my brake rotor and my cassette. I couldn't pedal, my rear brake didn't work, like my wheel was barely turning. And at the end of that stage, I was thinking I was like probably like 34th. And then I had like after that, I had like 3 of the best stages I had all year. Just because I think I did, after that big incident, I took some of the pressure off myself and I kind of felt a bit more like relieved. And I was like, okay, like the overall result is gone, but I can still like claw back. And even now till today, like the clawing back part is where I always feel like most comfortable. As soon as
Well, I mean, we had a few of those instances that year because we also had the one in the first race, right, in Valley Fasa, where like we had some brake lead tech, you know, incident, and then it's like, okay, you got no time to make your cutoff to get there, and then you're redlining all the way to make it, and you had an amazing stage, you know, there as well, right?
I forgot about that.
Like insane. It was like, you know, you were just like, people were like, why is he even going? Like he's not gonna make it. And I just remember this look in your eyes like, I'm gonna make it. Like I'm gonna get there. And it was probably one of the most impressive things that I think a lot of us had ever seen. And then so you carried, you still had some good results. So we had some solid results that first year.
I think we were pretty close to top 10. 11th. I think was the best result all year. And I think we missed the last race, Scotland.
Yes, we did miss the last race. The last race we did was what, Loudonville? Loudonville was the last one, right? Because then we did
I think so.
Switzerland was in the middle. We had Trans. Then we went to Loudonville after that.
Loudonville was the last with Jacob.
With everybody. Because Jacob came for the second half of the trip, which was great. And we had some fun times at Emmett on that point too. Good stories. There were some fun racing bits there. You know, that was like one of the most fun. I fell back in love with riding more than I had in a long time on that trip, actually. Like being around so many top level racers. So like for also seeing the top dogs do it. And going to the downhill race and like seeing those guys, but then also being around so much young energy of like, you know, all of you guys that were so pumped on just riding, and everyone was riding at like such a high level. You know, like it was one of the most definitely one of the most rewarding and fun kind of experiences to have out there. Which was pretty great. And then that brings you to the end of that season. You're on season 2. What did you do differently in that off season, or what was like the big change?
So that off season, I ended up moving down to the coast. Because Jack Menzies, who ended up being my teammate for that year, he called me up and he was like, you know what I think would be really good for like your racing if you came down here, lived with me, and like kind of learned from him. Even though I didn't have the same coach as the guys down there.
Were they all on Blueprint or?
They were riding with him, which it seems to work pretty good for them. But I just up in the interior and kind of I like doing my own thing most of the time, like keeping it pretty laid back. But I actually started working with the strength coach down there, which was 1-on-1 strength stuff. And then I had my riding coach. But it was just surrounding yourself with someone like who's better than you. Like I saw what he's eating. I saw like his routine in the morning. I kind of like kept like just a good eye on him, seeing what he was doing. And we ended up being teammates, which was pretty crazy. And learned a lot. Definitely had lots of fun down there too. We were just teenagers, you know.
And you were living in Squamish, right? At that
Yeah,
time?
in Squamish, in the slums of Squamish, actually. It was the housing situation we had was not good. It was moldy.
Yeah, but you're like what,
It was
20 at
wet.
the time? 19? Not
I
even.
think 18
18?
years old,
So
living by
whatever.
yourself.
Yeah, you can't
So you
explain.
can't really expect much. There's like from the shower, our bathtub had a hole in it. And you'd have a shower and all the water would go through the hole of the bathtub and it would go through the floor, and then the carpet that was outside of the door was always wet. So when we had guests over there, it
You
always
got
pretty
wet.
disgusted. And, yeah, our entranceway was just riding shoes on. Riding shoes. We had a boot dryer though.
But the thing that's rad is like when you do get to live that lifestyle, which was very similar to when I moved to North Van, and like all of a sudden your whole life every day revolves around like getting out for a ride, you know, doing that, which is pretty cool to like immerse yourself, especially for you, like with other top level guys. It's the first time, because in Kamloops, and correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, there's a lot of good riders in Kamloops, but the racing scene hasn't been like huge in Kamloops for a while.
Yeah.
And then it's like all of a sudden you're living somewhere where there's like more pros than you, like you throw a rock and you hit a pro, right?
Exactly.
Like, and that must have been a pretty cool experience for you to be there.
It was definitely a huge step in my riding, and yeah, like I said before, surrounding yourself with the best people are gonna make you a lot faster. But yeah, it was really good to ride with a solid group of guys like all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, you still get out and do your intervals by yourself or go to the gym by yourself, but just like the group rides,
totally.
Just seeing the level of riding, especially down there, because riding in Kamloops is so much different.
Yeah.
Kind of just used to the straight kind of blasting trails. Also, well, we do have stuff that's really gnarly and good here, but like you're just riding like the jankiest, like it's wet. It's like pretty close to what we're racing in Europe. Definitely the closest that I've found in BC.
Yeah, totally. And do you feel like that does, because it's interesting, you see like some racers, like someone like Sam Hill, for example, right? Who's like barely ever rode, like he's, you know, Aussie, like never rode wet stuff, and then he excelled in wet tracks. Like, and he was just like, I don't practice them, but somehow it allows me to like not be worried about them. I just do them. Do you find that like, was it easier to race? Well, it sounds like it was easier for you to race in Europe once you kind of had more experience doing that kind of stuff. Was that, or do you think it was better like not knowing and just like going into it?
I definitely think it was better not knowing, because like the Squamish almost runs better in the wet.
Totally, yeah.
But in Kamloops, like when you grow up, you're like you're not riding in the rain just because of all the clay. It's like you're gonna wreck the trails and all you wreck yourself. Yeah. But now when I'm like in Europe, when it is super muddy, those are the days where I find myself like most confident and ready to, because I'm just not thinking about the consequences. I'm just letting loose. And I think like my best races have been kind of when it's a bit wet or like rains the day before. Yeah,
because you had quite a successful season last year.
Yeah.
You know, like you were on the podium
2 times.
Twice, right?
Yeah.
Which rounds?
In Leo Gang and then Kanazai.
Oh, right. Yeah. And so that was pretty exciting. And like, you think the biggest change was like your off season stuff, or do you think your biggest change was how you approached the whole race season once you were over there?
I think it was, so I obviously the first year I was surrounded by you, and then next year Jacob too, he was our teammate from the year you were wrenching for us, became the team manager, and then we had another mechanic. And it was a whole team. It was a whole team, and it was like really good to like learn how to work with other people and like carry your weight around the house. I definitely learned a lot from that, but I still kind of felt the pressure, and I was just the youngest guy on the team, you know, like the one who was getting like picked on, but like also I was probably learning the most out of all those guys and how to like deal with myself and deal with the racing and the pressures and stress or stuff. So I was able to take that solid season. Like I got my first podium in Slovenia and then built into the next season, which kind of the off season didn't really go too well, to be honest, just because
like between just before this last race season
into Tasmania, just because the whole winter I like hurt both ankles. I
remember that.
So I hurt 2 ankles pretty stupidly, and they took a long time to get back to 100%. So I wasn't running which I do quite a bit of in Kamloops, especially for like off-season training. That cross-country skiing really hurt my ankles, which
You do a lot of as well,
it's
right?
a huge thing I do for training around here.
Yeah.
And then riding, I had to really be gentle on them.
Yeah.
And then even going into Tasmania, they were still pretty sore. I think I had a brace on for the first race and then took it off for the next race.
Yeah.
But now they're 100%
Back to it.
Yeah, lots of physio on them.
Yeah, which is what you got to do,
Yeah.
right? And then, do you have what are your plans for next season for racing? Are you?
So next season is looking a bit different than these last few seasons.
Yeah.
It's not 100%. I've kind of worked on my first block of racing, but it's going to be some domestic downhill stuff.
Nice. Yeah, that's exciting.
As well as some of the BMEs down in like Arkansas and Tennessee. So like my first block of racing is kind of looking like the Northwest Cup in Port Angeles. Yeah, totally. Then I'll
do the rad track, like they're sweet.
Yeah, either do the Squamish Enduro or Pemberton Enduro. I haven't figured out, but that's just kind of knock the cobwebs off, get ready for the full race season, and then the two BMEs in Tennessee and Arkansas, Mount Nebo and Windrock. Yeah. And then come home, race the Canadian Enduro League in May at Harper. And then the rest still need to iron out a bit more. But I'm hoping to go do a few of the EDRs in Europe. Yep. Maybe some trans races too. Oh, cool. And
I think that's all part of too that thing that you were talking about last year, like and learning. Like life as a pro or striving to be pro, like is not easy. Like everyone thinks it's like, oh, these guys just get it all, and it's like, but it's not. Like teams are up and down, contracts come and go, bike industry's hot. It's not like it's hard to do it, right? And it takes a lot of work. But all those lessons I've learned to like how to carry yourself as a pro, how to offer value, not just as a racer in like fastest club, and in the media stuff that you're doing, right? The media packages that you're putting together, the content that you're putting out, the like things that you can offer in terms of planning and helping to mentor other riders and all those things are pretty cool, because you are looking at mostly funding. I think a lot of your racing this year, you're blocked with a lot of your media projects. In some partnerships and stuff. Yeah, right? That's
kind of do the stuff like media work to raise funds to go racing. Yeah. I'm also working right now 6 to 12 at We Are One, like demolding and stickering, taping, some shipping stuff, which is really awesome. They let me do that as well as be an athlete for them. Totally. I really love it because I get to know everyone who's a part of making the product that I ride. Yeah. And like you have a connection with like almost everyone there, and then they end up building all the stuff you're racing or riding. And recently I had a video, the close to home video come out,
which is awesome.
Yeah, and we premiered it in front of the whole company. It was like my first time seeing it too, but like watching everyone see
and their reaction to you is pretty cool, eh?
Yeah, that was really cool. But then also like Dustin explained like how they're involved in making it too. So.
And I'll for everyone that's out there, if you haven't seen Close to Home yet, I'll put that link in the comments under this so you can go watch it right away. But I do think that it is really important to note, because like even when I was there, working, and Dustin and I would have talks about that, like that people there, hundreds of thousands of miles away from us racing over in Europe, and they're now taking pride in like, what are you doing? People that maybe would never been interested in enduro racing in their life, right? They're like, Johnny's like our guy, right? Like he's over there and he's doing this stuff, which is pretty neat. So what's you're working? Do you have a like a photographer partnership with anyone? How are you doing that? What are you doing for the media work?
So I'm kind of working on a few projects that are proposed. Like that's kind of the steps you have to go through to make things happen. But I've been working with Aiden, who's been my best friend since childhood.
And he's awesome. Shout out to Aiden. We'll have you on here to talk to you soon too. Yeah.
Since like the start of things, I think we did our first video together when I was 14. It's called Before the Storm at the bike ranch. But we did that together, and then kind of blossomed into like more stuff with Canadian Enduro. We actually during the COVID year did some work with Ted in Clearwater. And in Barrier, just kind of filming trails, doing a little showcase. And then that led into Aiden starting to work for We Are One. And we've been making stuff ever since. And it's pretty awesome to go out when we're filming. It's just feels pretty effortless. Like we capture some pretty cool stuff. And
Yeah.
it's pretty like we're pretty loose with it. We just go have as much fun as we can.
Well, and that's it. Actually brings up another really good point, because like one of the questions I wanted to ask you was like, what do you think, the most important thing for young athletes, young racers, young riders in terms of pursuing a career is? And the only reason it ties into what we were just talking about is I feel like a lot of them think it's super easy. I'm going to make an Instagram account. I'm going to like drop a banger. I'm going to probably be rich tomorrow. And then like I'm going to go race. But it's like, it takes a lot of work to do that stuff. So like, I mean, now you're at a place where media obviously is playing a huge role, where your career is moving from here forward.
Yeah.
But like, what's the most important thing for a young kid? Is it to get a social media presence? Is it to go ride first? Like, if you had to take a young kid right now?
I feel like the most important thing is have fun, but you also, I think there's like two directions you can go these days.
Yep.
Like you can go the media direction, the racing direction, or like some people do it really well. Like Kate Edwards, who's like races and does the media. I think doing both is probably like one of the hardest things to do.
Yeah.
So I have a few friends that have like trying to balance both, and they end up choosing one. But if you want to be a racer, I just go race as much as you can and get your name out there. Like, race in the States and Canada. Anywhere you can. But like find what you like to race, whether it be downhill, enduro, or cross country, and work as hard as you can towards that. If you're like probably under 16, I would probably not like get a training program. Just just have fun, try and ride as much as you can, ride with your homies. Remember why you're doing it though, right? Which is that you're having fun doing it, which is awesome. It's gonna be super rad to see on the downhill bike last year, because I remember obviously watching in Leger, I think it was that we watched, right? And I remember even then you're like yelling down the hill like, this is rad. This is F1, man. This is cool. So that's gonna be rad to see you racing CDH stuff next year. I can't wait. You pumped? Yeah, I'm pumped. Especially I've ridden a downhill bike once, and I've never like wild. Like you're living right next to Sun Peaks. Exactly, and I've only raced a downhill once on my enduro. And I was on an enduro bike, and that was actually at Sun Peaks too. But I remember it was like going so good until it was like 3 minutes in, and just the fatigue, and every hole I did, my arms are blown off. It's a different sport, eh? It's weird how like, cross country, road, downhill, like they're all the same sport in terms of they're all riding, but they're so like, different across the spectrum of where the strength needs to come. Like I know roadies that are like, oh man, it's downhill race. Like there's no way it can be hard to do. You're going downhill the whole time. And it's like, well, that's not true. Like you would blow up in a second, but then it's also like, then you get downhillers that are like, road can't be that hard. All you're doing is pedaling, and it's like, well, you definitely couldn't do that either. It's pretty. And like, cause you were a big Tour de France fan. You made me watch it for the first time. I've never even watched the stage until we were over in Europe. And then, do you still have like a favorite? Is enduro still your favorite discipline, or like, are you kind of split now between a few different ones? Or enduro is definitely still my favorite discipline. But growing up, like I kind of. Like my dad watched road racing on TV, and my granddad did too. And then we also did like cyclocross before I like started focusing just on enduro. Did a bit of cyclocross, did some cross country racing, but I think enduro, just because of the big days out, and it's not like downhill where you do get like 7 runs in. It's like you're riding all day, you're practicing all day, and then you're racing all day. It was just that aspect of it that I think my whole family like fell in love with, and ultimately that's what I wanted to pursue. And do you like, personally, no right or wrong answer, like I talked with Jesse on my last podcast or 2 ago, he obviously is a huge fan of longer days, harder days. Like he wants to ideally go back to an enduro series that's like, it's not 5 downhill races. It's like it's a hard day. Like you make it through, that's good. And then racing, it's even harder. Would you like to see EWS, whatever it is, go back to like that program? Or do you think it's better for the racing, have it the way that they are now? Or what would you change? I definitely would like to see it go back to the big days, like
Yeah.
super physical days, like lots of climbing,
Yeah.
lots of kilometers, really long stages. Yeah, that just because that's what I grew up doing, like
Totally.
the Canadian Enduro League, like racing those
Well,
races.
Ted puts on some,
Yeah,
shout out Ted, some
yeah,
hellish
those would make you hard.
races. Yeah,
Yeah,
they are
maybe.
brutal. Yeah,
I was bonked. Like I had to take a nap in between. Like I
yeah,
remember when I was a kid in Panorama, I took a full on 30-minute nap in the bushes. I was so bonked. Like, I couldn't go any further, so I was like, I'm sleeping.
that's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a better racing experience, like when it's like, because it's kind of, it mimics like what you do as a ride with your friends. It just makes it longer and harder, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool.
Yeah. And then having that, it kind of does make sense if they are trying to broadcast it to have it just as like the 6 downhill races for like the media people to come
Yeah.
in and out and like having everything pretty close together. But I feel like I think this is kind of where it's going, but have like the big enduro races maybe on like a separate, like the big hard ones like trans races
Yeah.
and the long days. It's a bit separate than like the full on EDR
Yeah.
series, which would be,
So it might just morph into a couple different things
Yeah.
again, right?
yeah, but you never know.
And we've seen racing do that like up and down. I mean, there was a time not that long ago when people were like, "Oh, downhill racing's dead,"
Yeah,
and now it's kind of like, come back again. Enduro racing has gone through a few
yeah.
pendulum swings and that kind of stuff, right?
Mhm.
But so like if you're thinking you're gonna do these blocks, you're hoping to get back to Europe,
Mhm.
which is gonna be really rad. You've been living in Kamloops now again, right? Full time.
Yeah,
So you've come back off the
Full-time.
coast, so you're still doing here.
yeah.
Haven't been able to cross country ski really this year because it's been
Yeah.
snow has been garbage. So what's this off season look like for you?
This off season, I've spent a lot of time in the gym.
Yep.
And I've switched coaches, or didn't really switch, or I did switch, but it was kind of just I needed to focus more on the gym side of things.
Yeah.
So yeah, lots of time in the gym. Some sus backcountry ski touring I've done.
I've seen your skis, so I know all about it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's minimal snow. Road riding when it does get warm enough.
Yep.
It's crazy the amount of like it's just been waves of weather. Like we've been getting really cold where you're just riding the trainer for a week and then it gets really nice. Next week you're road riding outside or running. But yeah, like I do a whole bunch of different things, which is nice to switch it up for a bit. But
And is that something that you really like about Kamloops as opposed to living on the coast? Is that as much as like it is all bike focused there, that's very like bike focused, right? Like,
yeah.
Do you obviously really thrive on like having different things
Yeah,
to do?
I like coming home and working on because it's not only you're just training, but when you just want to be like good at something. So like you're also training, but you're also in your mind, you're like, okay, I'm getting better at this.
Yep.
Cross country skiing, I've gradually been getting better, and that's something that I've always like wanting to work on.
Yep.
Just like technique wise, and like it ends up being easier and easier.
Yeah, so you get a few little wins instead of just training and grinding out.
Yeah, even this last week, I was like, oh, I'm gonna go out, try and run a half marathon, like running straight off the couch. and it was good. I mean, I was tracking through fresh snow and cramped up in the first like 5 kilometers, but ended up doing it.
Well, you got through. So what's your favorite place to ride in town? What's your favorite go-to lap? What's your favorite trail?
My favorite, it probably had to be up Sun Peaks, like Sweet One. It's my favorite trail.
It's a pretty good one.
I'd lap that the rest of my life if I could.
That'd be like the one thing you'd pick to do. Yeah,
for sure. And honestly, I think that's around the world too.
Really?
Peaks, yeah, I think that's my favorite place to ride a bike.
That's super cool because that was another question I had for you. Like now that you've been here, you've been around, you've been some of the coolest places on the planet to ride your bike, and Sun Peaks would be your number one spot. And what is it that you love the most about it?
I like how they kept it like raw there. Obviously in Europe, like if you guys have been there, like they keep their bike parks pretty raw too. But Sun Peaks is the length of the laps is like phenomenal for training and just the variety too.
Yeah.
And even the new side of Sun Peaks and just the jump trails, like some of the best built jump trails I've ever.
Yeah, that's what I think too. Because I actually had quite a hard time with Steep Shovel.
Mhm.
I find like anyone who's not a local like
Yeah.
doesn't love it. Because it's like I find it weird. They like go as fast as you freaking can, and then it's like next one you got to hit on your brakes, and then next one's like pedal again. Then you go over to that new side, and it's just like you're just flowing left, right, and center, which is pretty freaking cool.
That's the bike part, and then the downhill course too.
Yeah.
For just working on like hand strength and holding on.
Yeah.
It's been pretty good.
And then the new side on Morrissey, also
yeah.
on the race course was pretty
Yeah.
freaking rad. So that's good stuff too. And so what are you changing up anything on your bike setup for this year? 'Cause what are you running now? You're on the Arrival for your
I'm
frame?
on Arrival 170 on my bike.
Yeah.
I think everything's kind of staying the same with SRAM, RockShox. Yeah, Weir One wheels, bars.
And you're running the Convergence. Which wheels are you running?
I'm running the Triad wheels. I'm on the 32s front and rear though.
Yeah. Yeah, instead of a 28.
Yeah, so the usual ones, there's a 28 hole in the front.
Yeah,
but
totally.
It's like it's a bit stiffer on the back. So.
And do you find that you focus a ton on like bike setup, or do you tend to be a little bit like? Because it was funny, I remember like wrenching for you and trying to be like, hey, do you like this more? Do you like this less? Yeah. And I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm pretty set and forget. These last few years though, I've kind of been working a bit more on like fine tuning my stuff and getting it exactly where I like. But the thing is like I'm still growing quite a bit. And
totally.
Like, getting heavier, like skinnier throughout. Because like during the winter, I'm like trying to bulk up, and then one of these races, I'm losing weight. So it's like kind of always trying to find the perfect setting. I don't mess with the like rebound too much. I like my rebound at a certain spot. I like my air pressure at a certain spot, but switching my high and low speed clickers for different terrains, I've kind of figured out, and I have some settings on my phone. But yeah, that's kind of really all I change. I'm pretty picky about my brakes, where they are. I like having the right one a bit higher than the left.
Like actually in terms of like angle on the that's it's been like that since pretty much day one, eh?
Yeah.
Like when your first bike, you just got used to it, and then you're like, all right,
that's
the way it is.
And then DHR front and rear. It's just
ready
a hot take.
That's a hot take.
DHR front and rear is the best tire combo.
And what do you love about it?
I think it just rolls fast. It hooks up. It's like predictable, and it's lighter to pedal up the hills too, compared to that, because most people are running the Assegai. Which is still great.
And what about a DHF front and rear?
I think it's just a little bit more unpredictable, and that is good under braking. So.
Yeah, I mean that's the big thing with the DHR, right? Is having that as like that braking edge, like really being able to bite in and do that, which is pretty cool. And then so right now, Enduro has had some some ups and downs in the last little bit that we've talked about. Do you think going to be like? Do you think next year is going to be? It was really interesting to talk to a few different people, because Jesse's like Enduro's alive and well. It's going to be just fun. We're going to keep racing. Do you think that next year is going to be the last year of the EDR, or do you think it's gonna? What do you think is going to happen? What's your crystal ball say?
I hope it keeps going, and I don't really think it's going to die. It's just not. I don't think sports that like. Because there's like obviously like Richie is still going, like there's so many of these riders that are enduro riders and they need a series to race on, so it's not gonna completely like disappear. It might like kind of change a bit, whether it's like turns into like 5 downhill races in the same
we talked about
or
back to big days,
kind of like EWS style, but we'll see what happens. I'm not really too worried about it.
Just keep doing your own thing and
keep doing my own thing. Maybe try doing a bit of the downhill stuff.
Are you pumped to be doing that? Is that gonna like? Do you think that's you're looking forward to that in some ways, like more than some of the enduro races, just to get your feet wet, or is it like?
Honestly, it kind of depends on the day. Like some days I wake up and I'm like, fuck, like I can't sit.
That's fine.
I was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna go. Like have all these plans to race all the enduros, and then I'm like, go on these big rides, which like obviously are in my training plan,
Yeah.
but like I want like focusing more towards that. And then there's other days where I'm like, I really wonder what it's gonna be like just to like ride on the limit.
Yeah, it's like for 3 minutes and it's done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or 5 minutes or
Which
whatever it is.
It's just like kind of what I like enjoy trying to learn how to do new things.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for the enduro stuff because I like want to be better and I kind of know where I can be in that discipline. And then
Yeah.
the downhill stuff's just completely new. It's something I've never tried and something I've kind of always wanted to.
Yeah.
And I have the opportunity to give it a shot.
do it.
So
Might as well.
I'll try.
Who's your favorite rider out there on the scene right now?
I think it's been Jack Moyer for quite a while.
Yeah.
Just because he's like pretty lanky like me, shucks his hips side to side.
Halls.
Yeah, Paul's he's a funny guy.
Does media well.
Yeah, doesn't media well. But
Yeah, that's right.
yeah, I think I honestly Jack Menzies who I lived with.
Yep.
He's easy. He's like one of the most sturdy guys I've seen on a bike.
Solid,
He's,
yeah.
He's a brick.
Yeah.
But he makes it look good. And yeah, I just spent lots of time with him and kind of wanted to
Emulate a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. And so we are almost running out of time here.
Okay.
But now comes the hot take question.
Oh yeah.
Give me a controversial opinion in mountain biking right now. Give me anything.
I should have. I saw your. I should have actually thought about this. Man.
Too many. Don't have it, eh?
No, not I.
That's good. That means everything's perfect.
Well, yeah. I think everything is pretty good right now.
There you go. See, that's your hot take.
Yeah.
Mountain biking's great right now.
Mountain biking is great right now.
Yeah, there's no problems with it. Industry's good and everything's happy.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think good.
That's nothing wrong with that, man. Like
Yeah.
that's there is just a lot of negativity out there right
Yeah.
now. At the end of the day, being able to just go and ride your bike,
Yeah,
pretty
it's
rad.
pretty awesome. Like
Yeah,
it's even like yeah, it's perfect.
it is
Yeah, I
perfect.
like it.
Yeah. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you, Johnny, for coming by. It's
Yeah.
been wicked to have you. Yeah, and this episode will drop on Monday, so you got a couple days to let me know if you need to edit anything out for it.
Okay.
I don't think we are.
That's
But
cool.
thanks everyone for tuning in again. Really looking forward to hearing you next time, and we'll chat soon. Have a good one.
Yeah.
Peace.